What's up, chat? Happy Monday, January 24th, 2022. I'm Gun. Twitter.com/GundackerSports. That's the money train, because I am joined today by Raj
Donovan O'Neal, Whiteside, all questionable.
Coach. What's up, guys? Welcome to live television. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are hot mic'd. My bad. I didn't know you guys are in the middle of something. Chat. Raj, of course, you might remember Raj from the show. Yeah.
Back in the building.
But the debut of Coach, right? We call him the Coach. Old school, grinding these YouTube streets. You may have seen him in your recommended, or you may already be subbed to him. A couple of you guys double dipping, so shout out to the Coach. I'm always down to collab with content creators that have a passion for sports, and it looks like Joe also has that. What's up, Coach?
How are you, Gundacker?
Wow, we just built Western movie tension. I feel like one of us is going to pull out a six anyway.
And from Texas, right?
Yeah, well, I'm from New York, but down here, Waco, a little south of you, not that far. I-35, a couple hours, and
not far.
Yeah,
I'm in Dallas, so I'm right by you.
Yeah, who's not close is the Canadian Skip Bayless, Raj himself.
We're in the good country.
Yeah, okay. What a weekend of sports, by the way. You guys dabbled in some NFL over the weekend. Of course, basketball as well. There was MMA, there was golf, there was a little bit of everything. But from a fan's standpoint, NFL really put out a really good product this weekend. My Rams, man, we did it. We had to send Brady home. I'm still, Raj, man, before the Rams, I had a 10-year deal with the New York Giants. I've never lost to Tom Brady. Yep. I've never lost to Tom Brady in the playoffs. So I can't imagine as a fan how that feels, because I just don't know. I just don't know.
I was a Colts fan and a Peyton Manning fan, so I definitely know how that feels. But shout out to the Rams doing their thing. Stafford, all those years in Detroit, just kind of looming away, always been super talented. Now got himself a great team. Clutch play at the end of the game.
See, and that's the beautiful thing about wide receiver Odell Beckham, wide receiver 1 Odell Beckham, is that he makes that wide receiver 2. What's his name? Cooper Kupp. Makes Cooper Kupp, be able to have less pressure defensively. So that Cooper Kupp, as long as he's alongside Odell, he's gonna be a good player.
Hey, look, I'm not for real though. Like, obviously, I thought Cooper's great,
yeah.
but if Odell wasn't there, I could see them, obviously focusing on Cooper Kupp more if Odell wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. No, good for them. Good for them. I'm excited. I've been seeing memes about all the quarterbacks that are in the the championship weekend, and it's just like three. I saw 3 soldiers and then like a clown. It's like, which one is the clown, man? Jimmy G got here by accident. So hopefully he doesn't like Mr. Magoo his way into a championship ring, man, because there's been some stuff. But I think we're all being honest, man. The Bills and Chiefs felt like it should have been worth so much more, and also definitely shouldn't have been decided on the coin toss. But that is what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
It was fun, that's for sure. Incredible
definitely
football.
Lots of fun. What else is fun is navigating to tonight's 4-game slate. I tell you what, when I looked at the schedule Friday and I was like panning out my schedule this week, I was like, oh, it's okay. Friday or Monday's a little day off, just 4 games should be pretty easy. No, every game has some news impacting it. Like every team, every game. And before I went live for the PrizePicks show, I got Rudy Gobert out, and then right as I went live for this show, we got Conley out, and I kind of speculated that at the end of the prop show that I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if Conley sat this one out because it is a back-to-back, and sure enough, he got ruled out minutes later. So that spread started earlier at like 9.5 after Gobert went to like 10.5. I can only imagine how far it's going to grow between now and by the time we get to that game to drop a little bit of analysis on it. So we'll have a little bit of fun here. Shout out to the live chat, Mia Moore, Adam Shockley, Justin Brooks, Brody, Rich Homie Quinn, E Made It Happen, Taylor, Steiger, Fish Fan here. Whiteside might be in. Yeah, I think Whiteside would. I definitely think it feels like they knew Gobert was going to be out tonight yesterday and that they would save Whiteside last night for today. Arizona Drama, Obi-Wan, Big Bino says you and the coach. Heck yeah. Watch out both. Well, shout out to Big Bino for watching both myself and the coach. If you guys want to check out the coach, link to Coach's channel in the description below. Hit him with that sub. You guys, I wasn't lying. I said I'm here to connect and network with content creators that are trying to help themselves. You've seen Luke on the channel a lot more lately, and hopefully we got some collabs with the coach in the coming weeks or so. So
absolutely,
I told you the other night. I was like, I don't see competition in talking sports. If someone has a passion for the same thing I have a passion for, you're a friend, not an enemy. So I don't know that toxic mentality that maybe some others that would adopt. It's not here, man. It's all love. So
I agree, man. And I'll tell you, Gunn, it's hard to find that in this industry. So it's really great. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, I just hope you can help me win 100K. That's all.
That's
chase 100K.
100K.
Why can't I hear Raj for some reason? Why I gotta hear Raj?
Can't hear me. Can't hear the man, the myth, the legend.
That could be a problem. I don't know. Right click on his name and make sure that you don't have him muted.
I don't.
Joe, Coach, don't get old shamed by the chat, man. You're the next Fish fan.
I am going to get old shamed. I'm used to it, but for some reason I don't hear Raj, but that's all right, man. Raj, we had a good
talk. It's pretty important.
I can hear him, though.
Yeah, he can hear you. I can hear you. I feel like we need to all hear each other here.
That is strange.
Yeah, I sometimes if you right click on his camera, there's a mute button and a user volume. So make sure the mute button is not checked and the user volume's all the way up. And if it's not down, I don't know what it is.
I see it. I don't have it muted, so I know there's old shaming, but beats me. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Check 1, 2.
I can see him.
Rod, do you want to hang up and join back? I don't know.
Or I'll do that.
Y'all were definitely talking for it.
Yeah, we're 100%
talking. You fine, Guns. I just can't hear Raj. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll disconnect and connect again.
Something's
Yeah,
weird.
hang up.
Yeah,
Let's give it a shot.
Why can't I quit you? What's up, Nate D? Nova said, turn the hearing aid up, coach. We'll get Raj back before we celebrate.
We back?
I hear him now.
Okay, just a little disconnect, connect. Got it.
Take that hearing aid and throw it in the garbage, bro.
There you go. Talk about it. You don't need it.
You know what we do need? To
Shout
announce.
out Fish Fan, another oldie in there.
Yeah, all you old schoolers. Hey, chat, look at this number. Look at this number on screen, chat. You did it, not me. You guys did this number. 6,000 subscribers to the channel. It has finally happened. I had hoped that it was going to happen January 1, but then I got hit with the 2-week flu. But hey, better late than never. So the grind for 7K begins now, but I'm all about celebrating milestones and small victories when you can get them. So shout out to you guys for making this channel get to 6,000 subscribers. And we have been averaging over 20 new subscribers a day in the last week, which is nuts. I think a lot of it is tied to the prop pick show. So shout out to you guys. That is, I can't tell you how humble I am and appreciative that you guys got us there. And now we start the grind for 7K. Before we start the grind for this slate, I'm going to remind you guys that this stream is brought to you by rundfs.com. If you guys ever want to unlock my proprietary spreadsheets, projections, picks, player pools, all that good stuff, and most importantly, the premium Discord, go to rundfs.com, get yourself signed up, get a week pass, get into that Discord, and network within the community. Pre-lock voice chats every day. I'm in there outside of Sundays. Sundays I usually have to hang out and vibe. But every other day for 2 hours before main slate lock, I'm in the Discord. And there's an incredible community of grinders in there chopping it up. So, 6K. Willie says 6K now give us something to make money. 6K looks good. Oh, appreciate that, guys. All right, let's talk some basketball tonight. We've got 4 games. Should be pretty easy. There's a 7 p.m. game, 2 games at 8, and 1 game at 9. First game on the docket is the Cavs hosting the New York Knicks. Project starting 5 for the Knicks. Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson taking on Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, Lamar Stevens, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. Maybe several bits of information to watch from this game. And I guess I kind of buried looking at the underdog news to watch. So I guess just to reflect real quick, Levine questionable, Vucevic questionable, Kemba questionable, LeVert questionable, Ayton doubtful, Mitchell Robinson questionable, Jared Allen questionable, and then we just got that slew of Jazz information. But pertinent to this game, Kemba Walker and Jared Allen are not insignificant. So via the NBC Sports Edge depth chart, where I like to get a lot of news and blurbs from, we'll start with the Knicks side. Kemba Walker officially questionable, dealing with left knee soreness. Coach Thibodeau said that Walker is, quote, likely to play in Monday's game, so we expect him to be in the starting lineup. And then for the Cavs side, Larry Markkanen rolled his ankle in that last game, so he's not going to play today, but throwing Jared Allen into the mix as a midday questionable, dealing with an illness, does perhaps create potential ebbs and flows of usage to fluctuate one way or the other. The Cavs are known for having 3 7-footers in their starting lineup, being one of the best defenses in the league. Now, I do think their best defender is Evan Mobley, so they'll still have him, but not having Markkanen and potentially not having Jared Allen removes a little bit of height here and perhaps opens up some minutes in that front court for a guy like Kevin Love. All things considered, this is going to be one of the least enticing games from a implied possession, implied point total standpoint. Pace is low, defenses are good, so it's not a lot to love. But on Fanduel, couple price points that stand out: Julius Randle 8,600, RJ Barrett 6,400, versus DraftKings, where both guys are over $1,000 more. $7,600 for RJ Barrett, that's a $1,200 increase in price, and Randall's $9,700, $1,100 more than his FanDuel counterpart. So those guys at least become more viable on FanDuel, and then maybe Randall is a guy that opens up a little bit more with this Cavs front court being questionable here. Darius Garland, 87 on FanDuel, 93 on DraftKings. He has been an assist machine and has been a real revelation for the Cavs during this stretch without Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton. Big minute projection on him. I'm putting him at 38. Keep an eye on the status of Rajon Rondo. I don't think it would necessarily impact Garland immediately, but I also don't think that Rondo was somebody they went out and got for no reason. And if Jared Allen can't go, you would likely expect Kevin Love to somehow benefit minutes-wise, if not into the starting lineup altogether. And then at that point, 5,200 to 5,500, probably a little bit on the low end for him there. Raj, this is an ugly game, all things considered, but is there much here that you think you're going to take away from in your player pool? Give me a couple of spots where I guess Kevin Love. You seem to be a Kevin Love guy. Is this your spot to take some Kevin Love?
I'm not a Kevin Love guy. Okay,
I swear, anytime there's a Kevin Love game, you're like, Kevin Love, get you 50.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spot for him. It's a spot. It's definitely with no Lauri Markkanen. You know, he'll see a couple extra minutes. You know, maybe a few extra shots. We've seen him break the slate before at 5,500 on a 4-gamer. I think he can get you 30, 35 DKP, so don't hate it. Like you said, not a good game overall, not running to anybody. Again, I don't mind Garland at 93. I like his PrizePicks prop, real life points props at about 18.5. You can get the over on that. But other than that, I mean, I'd be okay if he just crossed this game out. It's just two defensive teams grinding it out slow. It's just not a good DFS game. And I think these other 3 games are better to target.
So I think Pelicans and Pacers are obviously going to suck a lot of ownership up. And then the Thunder and the Bulls could go in one of many ways. Like the Bulls could be a skeleton crew, or they could be full strength.
Bro,
and then the
Suns, way the Bulls are playing, it could be a game.
Yeah, and then the Suns game could be a blowout. So I think it might be a little too lazy to just give up on this game altogether. Coach, what are you digging from this game, if anything, though?
Well, actually, I don't mind this game that much. I know, everybody I think is going to initially look at it and say you've got the 30th and 21st pace teams in the league and the 3rd and 13th best defense, and they're going to say, why bother? But I think there's some scenarios here that play out. Number one, it's the Knicks' second night of a back-to-back, so that comes into play a bit. Kemba will get some minutes in that backcourt, not that it brings really the backcourt into play for me for the Knicks, but it lessens the defensive prowess, I think, because Kemba's probably the worst defensive point guard in the league. So I think it extends Garland's likelihood to spend up and play him. And I also agree with the point on Kevin Love. It definitely brings him into play, especially if Jared Allen sits, Mobley bumps over to center, and you already know Markkanen's out. That will open up some minutes and points at a pretty lowly priced Kevin Love on both sides. So I think I'll have some exposure to this game, especially now that it looks like, to me anyway, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but it looks like the Utah Jazz are waving the white flag saying, hey, we don't have Mitchell, Gobert, we don't have our guys. We're going to now list all these other guys questionable and just sort of mail it in against Phoenix. So that makes that game tougher to own, and I think it brings this game a little bit more into play. And by the way, congrats on the 6,000 subs, man. That is a big accomplishment.
Hey, well, we just got 6,001. Shout out to Cade Matthews for joining the crew, man. Welcome to the chat. I think all those points are pretty sharp. And then, like we said, if this Cavs team goes from 3 7-footers to one and a couple tall cats, maybe the matchup for RJ Barrett gets a little bit better. And again, Raj, I can get where you're coming from in terms of not wanting. I know you're speaking from like more of a DraftKings point of view. The FanDuel pricing on RJ Barrett and Julius Randle for the minutes that they're playing is still very, very attackable to me. Looking at the on-off court tool via add more funds, ! AMF in chat. You want to try it out yourself. It's free. They do have a sponsored version. It's the one I'm using. Garland on the court, Rubio, Sexton off the court. Garland's been enjoying a 27.6% usage rate with a near 44% assist rate. I mean, this guy's putting up old Chris Paul numbers right now. So I also don't think I would be too skittish on getting some exposure to him. And especially, like you said, we're going to have tons of potential value here. Could have a mostly underpriced Utah Jazz team for the minutes they might get. I don't know if it's going to be as crazy as that one Raptors game where all of the starters sat, but it could get to that level. And then at that point, we start weighing floor and raw points a little bit more than predicting the volatility in a player ceiling. Darius Garland, last couple games for him, 11, 12, 18 assists with 20 plus points in the last 5 or 6 games. So yes, all of these matchups are much more porous defensively. OKC, Brooklyn, a little bit of pace up spots, so the Knicks might be able to neutralize the upside in those numbers, but the floor is still going to be there. It still should be steady Eddie. Just out of curiosity, do we have a sample size in this split with also Jared Allen off? See if that's a negative impact. One of the thoughts that it was that it could impact his assist rate because Jared Allen's such a free assist guy with the lobs, and it's actually true. His 42 or 43% assist rate goes all the way down to 31, which is still pretty doggone respectable, but the usage rate stays high. So maybe we expect more scoring from him with a few less assists. Still over a fantasy point per minute. And then I guess it comes down to what this Cavs lineup looks like when they roll out their starters. Will we get a Lamar Stevens, a Jetty Osman, guys like that? I think Kevin Love might be somebody I end up having too much of. And then keep an eye on Nerlens Noel. If Noel suits up, Mitchell Robinson, Tosh Gibson, Nerlens Noel, they could all kind of cannibalize each other. But the matchup will be perceptually tougher than maybe what it is. But Mobley is still an elite defender, so I wouldn't want to get to attacking them too much, too fast, right? Let's get caught up on chat before we move on to the next one. Dean says, I'm back. Can I get a Discord invite? Okay, buddy. GS Luke, 10K coming soon. I think 10K has got to be the goal for the year, right? I think 10K subs by January 1, 2023 is probably the long-term goal. And then we'll start setting some short-term goals for 7K, 8K, 9K. Obviously, there's going to be a lull during the NBA offseason, but your boy's still grinding MLB, so it'll be all right. Bobby Schmurder says, Rod's looking like a free safety today. Hold up. Wait a minute.
I mean, hey, hopefully I'm free safety. Shout out Jalen Ramsey. He's a corner. Does the same thing, same job. Shutting down.
That's my favorite Rod's line. It's when you bring something up and he'll just shout out something like, Rod's looking like a 80s R&B singer. Like,
hey.
Rod's just
thinking 80s R&B singer. Shout out Jodeci. Shout out
Jodeci. Was that really? Okay.
That's 90s. That's 90s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you're making me feel old. Yeah. Josh says it's literally 20 players questionable on a 4-game slate. NBA is the worst. Yeah. I thought today was going to be a day off. It's not quite. Had Davis and Kelsey in all my lineups yesterday until 30 minutes before kickoff, then swapped them for Diggs and Hardman. Oof, German, I feel it. That Davis game was incredible. I had action on Stephon Diggs over 6 receptions, and then they start hyping up how he was on the field looking at the Chiefs celebrate last year. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So if you told me that the Bills put up 30 plus and Josh Allen had the game that he had, I'm like, oh yeah, give me that Stephon Diggs prop action. Nope, my man had like 3 receptions for like 7 yards or something. God dang it. So Gabriel Davis did his thing. Maybe that'll spell the end of Emmanuel Sanders in Buffalo sooner or later. Rod, just random shout outs. Hey, shout out to radio.
A lot of good people to shout out to. Shout out Luther Vandross, he's R&B legend.
Oh, I can't talk about Luther Vandross.
I saw him in concert, man, showing the old.
Shout out Coach for seeing Luther Vandross in concert.
Remember, in Cleveland back in the day.
Wow. Yeah, I never got that privilege to see Luther Vandross
he was
live.
Phenomenal. Absolutely.
I'd imagine, yeah.
I have a question for you guys before we move on, though, not to jump back into the mix, but it's such a pivotal thing for me, and I guess I'm sure some of our listeners listening too are wondering. I want to know if Jared Allen sits, is Mobley just 100% plug and play for you guys, especially with marketing out?
I think Kevin Love is a lock. Absolute lock. I think 500.
I don't think both of those statements can't be true. I think Mobley's very interesting because Mobley has a real shot at playing high 30. Like he could touch 40 minutes, and I wouldn't blink an eye here. He's already touching 40 minutes, so like it definitely would help him in the rebound category. Although Love will get his rebounds. 7,900 feels uncomfortable. Like I need every bit of 40 plus. But on FanDuel, Mobley's coming in at 6,900. So again, $1,000 discount. And on FanDuel, we will get rewarded more for his blocks and steals. He averages nearly 2 blocks a game. So I think on FanDuel, I get to him pretty aggressively. DraftKings, I might get a pinch of him. I don't know how. That price range is a down payment on Jonas Valanciunas, so I'm going to be a little bit more intrigued with. And then we're going to have some value in the power forward center spot with the Jazz being as weak as they are, with the Pacers rolling out nobody. So I think it's more of a FanDuel look for me, but I wouldn't have 0 on DK. But I do think there's a world where he just gets to like 40 to 45. And DraftKings,
Kevin Love.
That's what you got to have.
He's 35 minutes. At 5,500, Kevin Love is like a 100%er. And in 20 lines, probably like 80% Kevin Love.
Yeah,
he's literally the best on the board.
I'm definitely not anti Kevin Love, especially a guy that can pull up from deep. I think the Knicks are one of the teams that give up the most threes per game. They definitely take amongst the most threes per game, and then they respond by allowing a top 10 amount of threes per game, which is pretty incredible when you think about them being the slowest paced team in basketball, right? Yeah, so they chuck at a top 10 percentage and they allow at a top 10 percentage while having the lowest pace in basketball. So I can get behind that, Kevin Love. I can get behind it both, and I don't even think they're that negatively correlated because of their pricing, at least on FanDuel.
Right, I agree, and Yahoo too. One point I wanted to make though, and why it's so pivotal, and I brought it back up, is believe it or not, Julius Randle's the 3rd highest rated defensive real plus minus in the entire league at any position. So if he's going to start out, if Allen does play, I think that he's going to guard Mobley, and that could hold Mobley down. But if Mobley has to move to the big, and they're going to start Nerlens Noel at center, he'll probably play him. So that's why that shift, I think, is so important. And either way, I agree with you. FanDuel and Yahoo, I think I just got to, dial them up. And I don't see negative correlation playing him and Love. That's why this game, I think, is going to go underlooked. And it could be a contrarian way to really get to the money.
Yeah, I'm with that. I wish Kemba was out to make me feel better about the fluid ceilings of Barrett's and Randall's, but I'm with that. All right, let's take a peek at the next game here. I think this is going to be one of the more popular games on the slate. Definitely when I was prop shopping on the PrizePicks show, it felt like I was going to pull away with a lot of Pelicans exposure. And I think from a predictive value standpoint versus a lot of the moving pieces of news that we're dealing with right now, I think the Pelicans give us the most to kind of know what to expect and what not to expect. The Pacers have given us a couple of games now of clues and hints that they would lean on, Torrey Craig, Goga Bitadze, guys for deep minutes. But we have the Pacers at the Pelicans. Project starting 5 for the Pacers. Karis LeVert, maybe hiccup. Chris Duarte, Justin Holiday, Torrey Craig, and Goga Bitadze taking on Devontae Graham, friend of the channel, Garrett Temple, Josh Hart, Herbert Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas. A 215.5 total, 3-point spread in favor of the home team, Norland Pelicans. LeVert's the big time question mark of this game. LeVert's missed his last 2 games, and we have seen the Pacers just completely implode from a real life team standpoint, and also lately from an injury standpoint. They will not have TJ McConnell, Malcolm Brogdon, Domantas Sabonis, and Miles Turner going into this game, and they could be without Karis LeVert. If the Pacers has shown us anything in this last 2 games, is that they haven't been their best about reporting news in a timely fashion. I thought it was pretty comical that Malcolm Brogdon was put on like a 10-day rest when he was game time decision to that last spot. Like, how are you that far away? But yet, they don't have that information early enough. So I felt like when you think about that and like integrity fees and how the NBA wants to be a little bit more transparent, like how does that happen? Well, we might be dealing with more of the same here for Karis LeVert, because Karis LeVert, I expected him to kind of sit that Warriors game, which was night 2 of a back-to-back pure punt game, but then he kind of surprised me and sat the next game. So I have to truly think he's questionable. Maybe his injuries more than they're letting on. And then, the Pacers have been tied to so many trade rumors that maybe they're just, there's warning signs on Sabonis and Brogdon, putting some of these guys on ice to kind of make some deals. Because you know what you got in Karis LeVert, and the league knows what his value is. So this is a true questionable. If he can play, obviously his usage rate should be 1,000,000%. And if he plays 30 to 35 minutes, he's going to lead this team in just about every category: shot attempts, assists, all that good stuff. If he can't play, we get to run back the last two Pacers games, which featured a lot of Chris Duarte, a lot of minutes for Torrey Craig. Goga Batadze, with and without his headbutts, getting 30 minutes at 6K, has shown point per minute potential. So keep an eye on that if you're taking notes. Asterisk LeVert. On the Pelican side, we know Brandon Ingram is out. Devontae Graham is questionable. Graham was listed as questionable going into that last game where he did participate in shoot around, carried that Q tag all day, and then played. So since this is the same designation, feel like he's closer to in than out, but if he can't go, you might expect a boost for NAW. And Jose Alvarado, who might be one of those 100K to first plays as is right now, just becoming a diamond in a rough for them. 20, 15, 16 minutes his last couple games, and has shown a propensity to fill up the stat sheet, but definitely from the defensive metric standpoint, 4, 2, 1, 3 steals. He's giving us old TJ McConnell vibes right now. So maybe put him in your back pocket if we got okey doked with Graham being out. We ran some queries on off-court tools for the Pelicans earlier. As you might expect, the biggest beneficiary in the split without Brandon Ingram is going to be Jonas Valanciunas. So I think he's going to lead a lot of models in terms of fantasy scores today. I don't think that today is going to be a slate where we have a bunch of 10, 11K studs that drop 60, 70. So we can be a little bit more balanced, and we can be a little bit more keen on overpaying for safety, overpaying for floor. So if you truly believe that 40 plus fantasy points is a realistic range of outcome for J-Val, which I do, then I think J-Val is going to be one of your more sought after plays on the slate. He averages 1.27 DraftKings points per minute, 1.21 Fanduel points per minute, with a 27.8% usage rate and a 16.2% assist rate, with him on and Brandon Ingram off the court. Now you could tweak those numbers a little bit, and if you put Devontae Graham off the court, you can even see that assist rate hit 20%. But any which way you cut it, Jonas Valanciunas right now is primed to be one of the slate's leading raw fantasy point scorers from a projection standpoint. I got him and Devin Booker neck and neck right now, just 45. I think that's how balanced the slate is looking pre-flop. So J-Val would be a cornerstone in my lineups, but I imagine the field as well. And then Josh Hart on FanDuel at 6,500. That seems like borderline free square, dual position eligibility, and we know his propensity to fill up the stat sheet is there. If you want to tie in our PrizePicks connection here, Josh Hart, my favorite PrizePicks lines today did feature Pelicans, and it was Josh Hart and it was Jonas Valanciunas. So Josh Hart is listed at 26.5 PRA. I'm fine with going the over there. We've seen him flirt with triple doubles, and Jonas Valanciunas was listed at 41 fantasy points, and I have J-Val at 48, so I get about a 6 to 7 fantasy point margin of difference there. So if you want to start some PrizePicks cards, maybe add those two to the mix here. And if you're not on PrizePicks, you already know if you use code GUNDACKER when you sign up, you double your first deposit up to $100. Raj, is this not the game, right? Like, is this not 3v3s in every lineup for you with and without LeVert news, right?
Yep, 100%. I mean, without LeVert, if LeVert is in, I think I think you just kind of lock LeVert in on the slate at 8,700. I think he becomes the lock of the slate with no Brogdon or Sabonis. If LeVert's out, you just kind of, is it minimum 3 Indiana guys in every lineup? Duarte, Goga, and probably, you're debating between a Jeremy Lamb, a Lance Stevenson type. They definitely price them up, so they're not like the most comfortable clicks. But against this Pelicans team, I'm cool paying 6.4 for Duarte and 6.2 for Goga. On the Pelican side, everyone's in love with J-Val, but I mean, I'm thinking, it's a great spot, but him versus, let's say, a DeRozan or Levine, Him versus, I guess that's the only guy you can really kind of compete with because he's probably better than all the Cleveland, New York guys, so the Chicago guys. So I understand why he's super popular. I mean, he should be. It's going to be his show. But I think you want probably minimum 2 guys on the Pelicans team too. It's going to be him and the second guy I go to. I'm thinking is either Josh Hart, even though 7-4 not a comfortable price, or if Devontae Graham sits. I love Neil Alexander-Walker at 3,800. I think he becomes a core value for me.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but I'm also not like Jose Alvarado might just start. So keep an eye on that. Devontae Graham, J-Val. Like I said, right now I have to project Devontae closer to in than out since it's the same designation he carried last game and played. Devontae would have over a 20% usage rate, 23.5% assist rate with him and J-Val on, Ingram off the court. So they're all pretty doggone viable. And I know you mentioned J-Val versus whoever at that price range. Well, the beauty of this slate is you play them both, right? You don't have to choose between J-Val and DeRozan. You just effing play them both and fill it in with Jordan Clarkson and the Utah value and potentially the Pacers value. The last 2 games for the Pacers are our best tells on what we might expect their minute rotation to be if Karis LeVert doesn't play again today. It was Duarte, Bataze, Torrey Craig, Kiefer Sykes, who we've seen a few times this season flourish in spots without them. Justin Holiday as well. And then in that Warriors game, more of the same. We still don't have that those rotations, but earlier today they signed Lance Stevenson to a 4th 10-day contract. So might be a little short-term safety net for them. He played 17 minutes last game, so it could get really ugly to predict, but I would hope for my sanity LeVert is in, and then I can go from there. If LeVert did play, I could probably get his projection to be pretty high from a fantasy point standpoint, and then I might take a shot on him on PRA and all the good props you might open up. Coach, man, what are you doing with Pacers and Pelicans from this far out? And do you also agree this feels like one of the better spots to load up? Like you can have 2v2, 3v3 from this game and just kind of sprinkle the rest of the slate around it because it is priced appropriately, and there's not a 10K guy here, and it's still a close enough spread with enough implied points with 2 defenses that are definitely susceptible to getting beat up on. Is this your favorite game to stack?
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's no hot take, and it's going to be everybody's favorite game. At least it should be, because it sits perfectly in this 4-game slate. I certainly am going to have a lot of exposure here. Joe Val's my favorite play on the entire slate. I think he's just an absolute no-brainer. And I mean, you got to take some stands. I take stands strong, and you got to believe in what you're doing. But I just think he's a man. I've got him as a 50 burger here. I just think that the fact that no Turner, no Sabonis inside, if you look at the very, very small sample size with those 2 guys off the floor, Indiana just gets absolutely murdered on the glass. And Joe Val's a rebounder. So, I mean, this could be one of those 2015 kind of games for Joe Val, in my opinion. So I'm going to plug him in all my cash and GPP lineups. But I agree with you guys. I think there's other really good spots to go. Josh Hart, underpriced for what he's going to mean to this team probably tonight. He'll make a lot of my lineups. I do like Herb Jones. We didn't really mention him. He's cheap. He plays a ton of minutes because he's such a great defender, and he can get there, so he's going to be a consideration. Where I disagree a little bit, Gunn, and I'm interested to get more of your take, but I'm just not sold on Alvarado yet. I think to me, that scares me as a bit of a trap play. And I just say that for a couple of reasons. One, he's just such a unknown, such a tiny guy. And I don't know if he's the real deal. He's a good, I love the story. I mean, he's from New York City. He got to play in Madison Square Garden. Some of the Pels players bought tickets for all his family to come see him. So he's coming off all this attention. I just see a down game. Even if he starts and if Graham sits, I think Alvaro's going to get a lot more ownership than he deserves. But again, that's just my take on it. Indiana is very simple for me. If LeVert plays, I'm playing LeVert. If LeVert sits, I'm playing Duarte, because I think those guys are going to have the majority, either one of the usage, depending if the other one's off the floor. I don't really like anybody else. Gogo will get some attention. Maybe in a GPP flyer, Lamb is a cheap option off the bench, but That's about it. I do love the game though.
Yeah, I think Goga is worth his 6K, especially on this slate. Like I said, these smaller slates, I tend to wait for more than anything. And I think 30 plus fantasy points is still within the realm possibility for him. Double-digit shot attempts in the first 2 games. He'll chuck a few threes. Not extremely efficient from behind the arc, but does enough of everything. Blocks and rebounds. He got ejected in that Warriors game because he's a dodo brain. But other than that, that
was a weak headbutt, man. That was weak.
If you're gonna headbutt somebody, just headbutt him. God dang it!
Do it.
You're gonna
Right.
Zinedine. What's his name from the World Cup? Rod, help me out. Zina, whatever.
Yes. Get
Hey,
your money
Zidane.
for it.
Zidane. There
Yes,
you go.
man.
Yeah. So shout out to Gary Payton for no selling that, but yeah, I would still get to Taze. Him being center only will probably remove a lot of the overlap for people that maybe want Whiteside and J Val or McGee, somebody like that. I think universally the slate will, and then the field will probably agree that J Val is the guy to go get. But there's certainly some pivots to be had. So I'm curious to see where Goga's ownership ends up at the end of the day. But I got him projecting as pretty solid play. As far as Alvarado, I absolutely have to have Devontae Graham out to play him. But the main reason I would play him was, one, he's pretty doggone cheap on DraftKings. Usually you get forced into a couple uncomfortable value guys to spin the wheel and make a deal with. And the fact that he is pretty still dependent in terms of his fantasy viability, yeah, that makes him ultra risky. But per minute, we've certainly seen him be a busybody, and a guy this young is playing pretty hungry. So I'm interested, but really only if Devontae's out, because I don't really get to a path of 15-20 minutes exceeding that without with any confidence. So I like him if Graham is out, but right now I don't have. I have Graham closer to in. Tanner VFit, appreciate the sub, man. Welcome to the channel. Jump in chat, give him a year. And then everyone else you guys touched on, pretty much in agreement there. I think Josh Hart versus DraftKings, the price discrepancy is pretty stout. So on Josh Hart, he might be a tier 1 for me at 6,500. DraftKings, you need every bit of that 40 plus, usually 7,400. I think you can live with just under 40. So I still get there because I do expect deep minutes from him. NAW is another guy at 3,800. We think he would pick up some facilitation duties, maybe some playmaking duties, and then kind of the inverse here on Herbert Jones. So far, a lot of guys have been cheaper on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but Herbert Jones is the opposite. He's 5,900 on FanDuel with 4,700 on DraftKings. So one of the rare occasions so far where the DraftKings price point is going to give you a little bit more implied value. So if you are a fan of Herb Jones, stick him as a forward eligible type of guy. The minutes going to be there, 34 plus minutes in a competitive game. It may not be a point per minute grind. It may be a slow burn to fight for 26, but 26 to 28 might just mean something today that it doesn't mean on a usual slate. So I don't mind getting to Herbert Jones, but it might be more of a DraftKings pull for me. Let me get caught up on chat before we move on to the next one. What up, Tyrell Floyd? Michael Durbin, what's good, y'all? Loved it. What up, Mike? What up, Craig? He's stealing machine. Yeah, he's a steal machine. Kind of like TJ McConnell was back in the day, which I guess would make his PrizePicks fantasy points and like his FanDuel fantasy points a little bit better. And FanDuel's 4,100. So, but the 3-4 steals, like you can't project that even when a guy will pick some pockets. Moving on to the Bulls at the Thunder. Project starting 5 for the Bulls here: Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Javonte Green, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. Taking on SGA, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Darius Baisley, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. 217s are total, 2-point spread in favor of the Chicago Bulls. So the Bulls have a laundry list of injury news and notes to report on. What we do know, Alex Caruso is still going to be down for a couple weeks, dealing with the effects of Grayson Allen. Lonzo Ball out, Derrick Jones Jr. out, Patrick Williams out. Zach LaVine and Javonte Green potentially available to play tonight, and then Nikola Vucevic is questionable. So we could have as much as LaVine, Javonte Green, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic in this lineup, making it look as close to the Bulls as they possibly can without Lonzo, or we could have as little as just DeRozan versus the Thunder here. We don't have definitive news. We could have DeRozan, LaVine in, and Vooch take the night off on a back-to-back. So many different ways to go. Getting caught up on the news from NBC Sports Edge. Javonte Green listed as questionable, as well as Levine. I had read a report yesterday that projected Levine to be back sometime next week. So I noted on the PrizePicks show, it's pretty incredible that he would even be potentially available today, but him making the road trip, seems to be a good sign. So if he can go tonight, I guess we would then have to keep our ear to the ground on what we might expect for him to go from a minutes standpoint. He's missed 5 games now for the Bulls. We've certainly seen conditioning come into play for a lot of players. A lot of that, though, more COVID related than injury related. So keep an eye on that. And then Vucevic being injured last night, dealing with a left patella contusion. Because it is night 2 of a back-to-back, you wonder if they put him on ice because they really can't afford injuries going forward, and maybe unlock a guy like Tony Bradley. And if Tony Bradley got unlocked, then maybe all hell breaks loose, because he is bare bones min on DraftKings, and is certainly somebody we've seen be a point per minute type of player. I think we have some sample size of him backing up the Jazz in years past. I want to say he was in Philly for a minute as well. Don't quote me on that. He is listed right behind Vucevic in the depth chart, and then he would be last of the Mohicans, and he might get a real shot at 30 plus minutes against a Thunder front court that has bled fantasy points to both the power forward and center position. They don't rebound particularly well, and they also allow the most or a top 3 amount of blocks per game in the league. So it would be a big spot for Tony Bradley to obliterate his potential price point. So lots to watch with the Bulls. And I think this is certainly going to be the news report that shakes up the slate. So keep an eye on the Underdog Twitter account. Hopefully this news will come out sooner than later, it being a road game. But on the Thunder side, I do have Derek Favors listed as out. That might help us believe in Jeremiah Robinson Earl getting 20 plus minutes. We have seen a few different carnations of this Thunder lineup that has featured a rotation of Aaron Wiggins, Darius Bazley, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and the aforementioned Derek Favors, and Favors being out. I'm going to lean on Bazley and JRE being the front court here for the Thunder. This is a 2-point spread. It's rare that we can catch the Thunder in such a tight spread, because coming into this game, the Thunder have the worst offensive efficiency in all of basketball. But here we are in a 2-point spread, and oftentimes if the Thunder are going to be in competitive games, you expect a decent game out of SGA, who has the potential to be a top 4, top 5 fantasy point accruer on tonight's slate. He dropped 57 fantasy points against the Cavaliers when his team scored 87 points. So that's crazy. And we've seen that a few times this year. We've seen Sadiq Bey, Hamidou Diallo also drop like dueling 50 bombs when their team barely scores 80 real points. So it just goes to show, like, SGA has a real hand in everything that the Thunder do, especially if they're going to be competitive. And if they're going to be competitive, you might even rely on SGA to score 20 to 30 real points, as we've seen him do in 4 of his last 5. So there is a case to be made for SGA. And I know that 10K on Fanduel and 9K on DraftKings is vomit levels to click. But I think pre-flop, the projection is still going to like him pretty decently. Early on, I have him projected to be right above 40 fantasy points, which standard deviation, my top 10 is all between 41 and 45 fantasy points. So plus minus 6 points, right? We think about X value, 6 fantasy points. That's anybody's ball game to lead this slate. And some of these guys are questionable. Vucevic, some of these guys are in double-digit spreads. Chris Paul. So this can go any which way. Coach, we'll start with you this time on the Bulls and Thunder. What's standing out to you, and are you ready for this news headache for when the Bulls finally announce who's in, who's out, and who's on restriction and who's not?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, we need that news. I mean, if Levine and Vuk are in or out, it just changes everything in this game. So, I mean, if hopefully we have that news at 7:00 at lock. If we don't, you're really going to have to strategically put some of these guys in to swap, because, it just, if they're in or out, it just changes everything. I agree with you. I think Bradley would be a terrific play if Vuk is out, just the cheap wise. And he's shown that backing up Embiid and backing up Gobert, that, when he does get his opportunity, he's a strong points per minute guy. And even at 25, 30 minutes at that price, he'd be a steal. So that would be good. And I can't imagine they're going to roll Vuk out there. He's not the youngest guy anymore. I think they're going to sit him. So I don't have anything official on that whatsoever. But I've got Gobert in my builds, or I mean not Gobert, but Bradley in some of my builds so far. But if they sit Levine, then you got to look at DeRozan just because he's going to have 1,000,000% use. And you got to consider Kobe White in that instance because he comes back into play because OKC's just not, good basically anywhere. But I wouldn't touch those guys, White and DeRozan, if Levine and Vuk are in. So we got to get that news. The bottom line for me. On the OKC side, I'm with you, man. As much as I want to take SGA, that price is just asinine. I don't know if I can push that button because he has busted in games where, he'll just mail it in and have 22, DFS points. So I'm not super comfortable there. Itty, you could sit on a game where he can throw a triple double on the board. We all know that. And he's tempting. But I'll tell you, Oklahoma City's so bad. When you go to a guy or two from them, you're just begging for DFS points throughout the whole game. So I'm not super focused on this game, except if the news drops, favorably for Chicago.
Yeah, and if the news does, or when the news does come out, depending on which way it goes, there are some pretty stark contrasts in pricing all the way through and through. Kobe White, you mentioned, he's just 5,700 on FanDuel, but he's 7K on DK, so it becomes potentially a good play, a great play on FanDuel, and a risky play on DraftKings. Zach LaVine, 7,100 on FanDuel, which if he was unlimited, right, if he was 35 minutes, Zach LaVine averaging 25 real points a game, that would be borderline tier 1 levels of lock potential. But then if he does play, we're dealing with is he restricted, and so on and so forth. And then we mentioned Vucevic potentially being out, and I agree. If I had to guess now, a big man injured, night 2 of a back-to-back travel, I'd probably look for a way to get him off his feet. Well, the Bulls front court already struggles because they're undersized. DeRozan filling in at power forward quite a bit. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl had some interesting numbers on PrizePicks earlier today on the PrizePicks show. It was at 13.5 PRA. And that's a number he has cleared in really every game that he's had opportunity outside of that defensive stalwart line of Markkanen, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, the Cavs being as strong as of a defense as they are. So I would really like 13.5 almost as is right now. But obviously it just becomes a better number with Vucevic potentially being out. And it helps a lot that Derek Favors is out this far out. So if we're jotting down PrizePicks plays, I think 13.5 for JRE is something I'm digging quite a bit. Raj, what's your hottest take in this game? SGA, so expensive, but there's an above 0% chance that he's the highest scorer on the slate. Will you get the SGA in your builds?
There is. I mean, the way Chicago's been playing, their defense has not been that great. So I'm not scared to attack it. I think in tournaments, if you really wanted to, 1v1 or pivot, if you play him over J-Val, I don't hate the call. I think J-Val's a good play, but I think SGA could definitely be a 50 bomber against Chicago. So I actually like SGA. I'll probably have him as a tier 2, maybe a 20%er. It's just, with guards paying up, like if Karis LeVert sits, he might be my favorite guard to pay up. I like him probably more than Garland and more than Booker, what I think will be in a blowout in that game. So I don't mind SGA here. Chicago side, I think Vooch will play. He came back into the game. And like you said, they're shorthanded, so I think he'll play. Defensively, with no Kobe White, no Caruso, I think OKC will be able to keep it close. So if Levine plays, I think him at 8,400 is intriguing in tournaments. Should have some of him. And DeRozan at 91, I think, is fine too.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Rolled ankles and bruises, right? You can come back in the game because your adrenaline is still pumping.
Yeah, that's true.
After some sleep and definitely some travel, it feels a little bit more tender. So I don't want to. And again, there's nothing out there saying he's closer to this or that. It's just speculation. But I did speculate that Mike Conley would be out, and that hit.
I want to say Giddey is intriguing too. Even
Yeah.
though the price is not cool, I think tournaments is intriguing.
So on 6K on FanDuel, yes, I'm in agreement. I feel like that's so close to Josh Hart that if it came down to it, I'm going Josh Hart. But there's a world where you could play them both. The $1,300 discount to DraftKings, like that's one of those spots where I really struggle with getting to him confidently on DK. But again, PrizePicks has opened up the door to get action on players that I like, but also can't really justify the price point too much. Giddey has a bunch of attackable lines, 26.5 PRA, 6.5 rebounds, and he's a fun guy when it comes to sweating rebounds. He's cleared 6.5 in 3 of his last 5. We've seen him flirt with triple doubles, so I definitely don't mind. You know, he's really the white Josh Hart, right? Like he'll stuff the stat sheet, play the minutes, and every now and then it'll get you there. So if you're looking for that stock and stuff for 30 to 40, my early projections have him between 36 and 39 fantasy points, depending on what site you're playing on. So I don't think that's crazy. Obviously, the 6K price point sounds and feels better than 7,300. Getting caught up here. Josh Gilham says Kobe White out. Is he out? Did that just drop? Let me see.
No,
No,
he's in.
Oh, okay.
I think he just misspoke.
Gotcha.
Kobe White's in.
Gotcha.
I want to mention too. I want to give Raj a shout out because one thing I forgot to mention. He is exactly right. Somehow in the last 4 weeks, Chicago went from the 7th best defensive efficient team to 18th. That's pretty damn hard to do. So
I can explain how that happened if y'all are ready.
Let's go.
Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. That's how that happens.
I mean, those are 2 of the best defenders. Yeah.
Yes. And Lonzo missed a stretch, and then Caruso had like 2 games in the last month. So without those two, certainly strips down their defense, especially their guard defense. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the last game. Before we do that, take a pause for the cause chat. 2 things. One, in the link in the description below, there's a link to Coach's channel. Check him out. That dude's pumping out content, not just for NBA, right? You're doing NFL. You do any other sports than NFL and NBA?
We do the 4 majors for us: NBA, NFL, PGA, and MLB. So we're going for the best.
No love for the NHL, coach. People in Texas just don't like the NHL, eh? It's like that.
NHL we've talked about. We just, we need some experts at it, man. We may have to look up, Raj.
You know what? I don't think I'm an NHL DFS expert. I know the NHL. It's because it's you're Canadian. You have to. It's just like in our blood. Yeah, DFS wise, yeah, it's kind of tough. I tried a couple times. It's just not easy.
It's a lot like baseball. From a fundamental,
it's high variance, yeah.
Well, but I mean, but like stackability, like you just running out stacks and spraying the stacks together. So, but I'm not an expert either. But yeah, so check out Coach's channel. There's a link to it below. Lots of content coming from him. And it sounds like soon you'll be stepping your toes into the live stream game, which is where I said that's where I live. So
I know, but we're gonna make sure we don't go same time. So we'll stagger it. So if people really want all the info, they can check us out at DFS Coach Talk, and then they can check you out and make sure they get the best of both worlds. I mean, you can never have too much information and stuff like this. There's no doubt.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that.
A quick little NHL stats. We got some time. Alexander Ovechkin, who's like an all-time great scorer in the NHL, plays for the Washington Capitals, has more career goals right now than the entire Ottawa Senators roster. That's nuts. Like that's just nuts.
I feel like LeBron has more real points than many NBA teams in the league right now. I don't know.
You know what? He might have
maybe the Magic or the Thunder or something. I don't know.
I wonder, yeah.
Somebody look that up. I feel like LeBron has more points than I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm tripping. Points add up really doggone quick. So that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever said.
The Thunder's got garbage though. So
yeah, you know what? LeBron might have more career points than the
Thunder. Utah Jazz at the Suns. Last game on the docket. Before we jump into that game, reminder that you guys can jump behind the premium wall at RunDFS.com. Get into the RunDFS.com VIP Discord, looking a little something like this. And every day before lock for a couple hours, grinding tip off. I'm in the voice chat. before and a little bit after, making my player pool, adjusting projections, talking prop lines to shop with you guys. Like I said, we've got millionaires, we got thousandaires. If you're balling on a budget, you can play too, man. No matter what your grind is, whether it be quarter arcade, single entries, mass entries, 3-entry maxes, man. It's such a tight knit, ego free community. I'm proud of it, and you guys are welcome to join, and you can compare your player pool to mine, and if you agree with it, you can tail some stuff. You can say this guy sucks, I'm gonna play everything he's not, and whatever it is, there's a strategy and a process for it, but it all goes to supporting the channel, keeping this free content, supporting the streams, and we have only 2 or 3 of these. I think it's 3. Only 3 of these all-star passes left. So if you are procrastinating and you know you want it, don't wait any longer. Get into a all-star pass that'll lock you until July 20th. That'll finish up NBA, NFL, and then baseball. And hopefully this lockout nonsense ends soon. But also, if it doesn't, I'm definitely going to be making sure we got coverage for golf and NASCAR, stuff like that. And then USFL is coming, and I would imagine there's going to be DFS content for that as well. So going to be looking to grind some USFL and sooner or later XFL, all that good stuff. So more stuff to bet on, the more stuff to play DFS on. And if I got to, god dang it, I'll be a WNBA expert, okay? we going to be grinding something. Utah Jazz, Phoenix Suns, main event tonight. Project starting 5 for the Utah Jazz. Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, Bojan, Rudy. I don't know who all got ruled out right as we went live. Hassan Whiteside. We'll come back and circle all that. Up against Chris Paul, Devin Booker, McCall Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and JaVale McGee. So going back to the underdog list of Jazz that were in and out, they announced that Royce O'Neal is downgraded to questionable. Hassan Whiteside not on the injury report, so I'm expecting Whiteside to play with Rudy Gobert out. Ingles is questionable. Bojan is questionable. Conley's out. So they could be punting this game again, which is something that we saw them do against the Toronto Raptors a couple weeks back, although that seemed like we could link it to them not wanting to risk jumping the border with the quarantine rules. So much like the Pacer situation, especially like the Bulls situation, there's a lot of speculation from this far out on what we can and can't do. But I guess what we do know for sure is that there's no tag surrounding Jordan Clarkson. So without Donovan Mitchell, who represents 20-plus real points a game, potentially 20-plus shots a game, without Mike Conley, we're probably putting a big fat load of Jordan Clarkson minutes into the projection model, and probably it's going to spit back a pretty favorable number. So let's start Jordan Clarkson here, although they could still do something weird and start like Joe Ingles and then want to lean on, I don't know, Jared Butler or somebody else. No Rudy Gobert, so Hassan Whiteside gets another opportunity to start and play deep minutes. Now he's very similarly priced to the aforementioned Goga Batadze, and that's going to be an interesting 1v1 because Whiteside definitely has a 50-point fantasy point ceiling, and he's going against not Ayton, a similar defender in the likes of JaVale McGee and then Bismack Biyombo, but he's also shown us a lot of volatility between his floor and his ceiling. That Toronto game where he played 30 minutes, just 20 fantasy points, 17 against Indiana, and then Detroit Pistons when everybody was back, 51 fantasy points with a 21-14 double-double. So plenty of ranges of outcomes for him, but if we're truly selling out for ceiling, Whiteside certainly has enough ceiling to lead this slate in fantasy points. I don't think I'm being facetious when I say that, but of course this floor is so volatile that he could be the 4th or 5th best option at the center position. I think from here on out it's just it's going to end up being a lot like the Bulls situation where like, well, this guy could play, this guy can't play, but I think we know Jordan Clarkson's going to play. He's 5,600 on FanDuel. I'm probably going to have aggressive, copious amounts of that. But let's look at the Suns side where we have a little bit more definitive information and what to expect. One, Jay Crowder's out, and Cameron Payne is out. So we have had a stretch within the last month or so where Cameron Johnson filled in for Jay Crowder and saw a pretty high minutes floor, 30 plus minutes, 35 minutes against the Clippers, 35, 30, 34 in his last 4 games without Jay Crowder. And several occasions he was exceeding 12 real points per game. He's done that in his last 6 without Jay Crowder. Without DeAndre Ayton, we know JaVale McGee will start. Lately, Bismack Biyombo has been the true beneficiary, playing more minutes and being more productive from a fantasy standpoint. And we know Devin Booker, without Ayton and on the court with Chris Paul, exceeds 32% usage rate, will likely lead the team in shots and usage again here today. And then in that last game, Cameron Payne went down. He got injured, which the other guard that looks like they were willing to utilize is Elfrid Payton, who saw just 6.5 minutes with Payne down. Is that a sign that maybe we'd see 10 to 15 minutes here today? It seems like he wouldn't get all of the Cameron Payne minutes, but what I wrestle with is, 1, the spread potentially getting out of control very fastly. 2, how many minutes could I put on Elfrid Payton? Not that I want to play Elfrid Payton, but it's how safe is Chris Paul here? Even if the game got out of control, Chris Paul's coming off a game where he just played one of the team high 40 minutes. He led the team in minutes, and that doesn't happen that often these days. So is his minutes correlated with Payne being injured? Do they want to lean on him a little bit more here today? And if they did, is 8,600 a little too cheap for someone who's cleared 40 fantasy points in 3 straight games? And we know he'll get his assists. And if we think about assists on PrizePicks, Chris Paul is listed at 9.5. So there's a lot to maybe like here, a little to like a lot, and a lot to like a little. Raj, where do you start from this game? Give me your confidence levels on the Suns here, and are you ready to click add to lineup next to Bismack Biyombo's name, who's been carrying virtually no ownership every slate? And again today, with the elements being what they are, with the matchup getting better against not Rudy Gobert, could we get another 25 plus minutes out of Biyombo and get 40 plus fantasy points and again get him at a discounted ownerships because the field will go Whiteside, will go Goga, will go Jonas Valanciunas? What are you doing with the Suns? And then take a guess on the Jazz, because your guess is as good as mine right now.
Yeah, I like Biyombo. I think he's going to get minutes. If it's a blowout, if it's a close game, he's going to be out there. I think he should dominate, Whiteside, even if Whiteside's in, but I mean, I do expect him to be maybe a little limited. He's been out 14 days now, so I don't know if his conditioning is right. So we'll see about that. So I like him. So give me all the Biyombo. I think he's priced fairly. Guys like Bridges, Johnson, Booker, I'm just all not that interested right now. Again, we mentioned the 9K guys we like, Chicago game, Pelicans. So not in love with them, but getting to Devin Booker at 9,400, or sorry, Chris Paul at 8,600, I think is intriguing. Could he get there in 3 quarters? Yeah, I think he can get you, a 15 assist game in 3 quarters for sure, because Chris Paul against his Utah team. Don't hate it. Utah side, I mean, it looks like it's a Jordan Clarkson spot, because someone has to, even if it is a blowout in 3 quarters, someone's still gonna have to play those 3 quarters and get them buckets. So if you're getting the Utah Jazz, let's say 80, 90 points, I think Jordan Clarkson might be responsible for 25, 30 of them. And at 6,700, I think he has upside 25 real life points, if not more. So don't hate him in that spot. After him, I mean, Joe Ingles at 5K. If Bojan doesn't play, I think Joe Ingles becomes one of those guys who's going to have to play 30 minutes just because they'll be so short-handed. So waiting on the Bojan news for Joe Ingles. Even a guy like Rudy Gay at 4,200, if all the guys are out, he might see 25 minutes and get you 30 DKP at 4,200. I think these Utah guys, you're going to have a couple in the lineup just because someone has to play the minutes.
Yeah, minutes equal money, and there's plenty of minutes to go around here already based on the information we do have. And then last night, I think Bojan got a little banged up, caught some live rounds. He was dealing with a left finger strain, so something to keep an eye on. Another thing that we've seen happen is, from this far out, we get too scared to even commit to playing these guys. Obviously, if O'Neal, Ingles, more so Bojan, didn't have any tags associated with them right now, we'd be like, yeah, I'd get to some Bojan at 6K today. He has 40 plus fantasy point potential without Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and without Mike Conley. And you might get them at discounted ownership. So maybe somebody to keep in your back pocket for some late swap potential. Just out of curiosity, do we have any type of sample size of the Jazz without Gobert, without Conley, and without Mitchell? I mean, that's such a whole different team. We always have options of like no Conley or no Mitchell. Gobert's been pretty steady Eddie. He did miss, a COVID stretch there. But how about we put Clarkson on and no Gobert, Conley, and Mitchell and see what the minute sample size is. And if I have to, I'm okay with going back to the beginning of last year since it is relatively the same team. 120 minutes of sample size this year, a 32.5% usage rate for Clarkson in that split, $1.25 on DK, and then rolling that back to the last 2 seasons of sample size, the minutes for Clarkson in this split go to beep, boop, beep, 449 with a 29% usage rate and still over a fantasy point per minute. And if Bojan's out of the mix, it's going to go up that much more. So it could get really, really weird. And then, like I said, if we start getting scenarios where Bojan's out, Royce O'Neal's out. They didn't put anything next to Rudy Gay's name, so I'd expect that he would be an option. And we've seen Eric Pascal when he gets on the court this season. He's been making an impact, and he's doggone cheap at 3,300 on DraftKings today. 33 minutes against Cleveland on the 12th, and then he played that Raptors game, that game where everyone was out, which could look a lot like today. Played 37 minutes, was a point per minute there. So cheap enough that if he had a case for 25 to 30 minutes, if not 30 to 35 minutes, 3,300 would probably push him as one of the highest owned value plays on the slate if the news came promptly. And at small forward, power forward eligible, being able to put him in 4 spots in a lineup right now would be extremely convenient for the potential minutes that are potentially going his way. And I would imagine that, or at least it feels like it's not just Conley, right? It feels like we'll at least get one more guy out for the Jazz. If not, all of these Qs turn into outs: Ingles, Bojan, and O'Neal. So I'd almost be willing to take that plunge on Pascal from this far out. Anyway, Coach, what the heck are you doing with this game?
I'm taking a couple of Advil and some Tums and everything else. I mean, how the hell you figured this one out? But I guess the 2 things I'll say is, one, if you're gonna have some exposure to this game, you have to have a scripted out a late swap plan. Don't leave yourself in the lurch where you're leaving a bunch of salary on the board. So if you want to take some shots here, just have some backup plans, because there's no other 9 o'clock or later game. So you're stuck with what you got. Personally, my initial feel is, like I said at the beginning of the show here, that I think Utah is going to punt this game. I think they realize they're up against it. Phoenix is pretty healthy. They're playing fantastic basketball. And why force guys that aren't completely healthy? I think they're just going to, write it in. But, that's not a for sure thing. So we have to still take a look at that news. But make sure you put those guys in a spot where you can pivot them and have a plan. A couple of things I wanted to mention, though, that I think are somewhat valid. Everybody thinks Hassan Whiteside is this fantastic defender. And I'll tell you something. Yes, he blocks a lot of shots. Not generally the guy he's guarding, but from help side. He led the league the 1 year in blocks for the Heat. But in general, he's not a good defender. And it shows in the numbers. I'm a big fan of defensive real plus minus, because it uncovers somebody that's hiding behind a good defensive team. If you look at centers right now in DRPM, there's 86 of them rated. Gobert is number 1, and Whiteside is number 81 out of 86. So he's not defending the position as well as everybody thinks. Now, I don't think he's going to get monster minutes either, because he's been out so long, maybe 20, 24 at the most. And I'd rather go elsewhere. So I'm not into the Whiteside thing if he does play at all. The other side, JaVale McGee, and it's hard with McGee and Biyombo splitting minutes. I mean, I'm with you. Money equals minutes equal money. And I just hate to, I have them right now 25 and 23 minutes. So how do you count really on somebody doing it well, especially when this game could blow out. So I'm a little nervous there. Last point, Royce O'Neal, third best defender against power forwards in the league. So if he does play, I don't think Cam Johnson is going to be the plug and play that everybody's making him out to be. I get it. He's going to get 30 plus minutes. I really like Cam Johnson. It's just if O'Neal's in, I wouldn't just make it an automatic play. But I'm not paying up for the Pauls and Bookers 8-6, 9-4. I just don't trust the minutes. No way Monty Williams is going to play Paul beyond, I think, maybe 30 minutes, 28 at the very, very most. And that's if it stays close, because he monitors the minutes of his guys, and especially Paul. Paul's, he's an older guy like me. We gotta, bide our time. You know how it goes. So I'm not crazy about this game. I don't like the feel of it. I don't want to be trapped in it. I will say this though, if all those guys do sit, I think Clarkson, you almost have to play him because nobody else is really going to score. And he just never saw a shot he didn't like. So he's going to be firing from everywhere. I'll give you a couple names, though. See what you guys think about them. If they all sit, Trent Forrest at the min 3K can be a guy that can get there for you. They did sign Daniel House. He's a possibility. And then, Rudy Gay should chip in and guys like that. But, man, it is a scary game to mess with.
Yeah, we've also seen Jared Butler and Denzel Valentine be in the mix as well. I would say I agree with your Royce O'Neal being a good defender take. I also have seen them Snyder sick him on like the opposing team's best guard. So I think you might see a lot of O'Neal attacking Devin Booker, which might free up Cameron Johnson. For me, Cameron Johnson feels like a better click on DraftKings anyway at 3,900. Right. So I'm with you on that.
Price is great.
Yeah, the 10 plus K on Chris Paul and Fanduel. I mean, it's right there with SGA. We've talked about SGA potentially being a sneaky play just because of his price. But on 8,600 on DraftKings, I can get behind that. I'm a little bit more open to him playing more than 30 minutes just because there's no Cameron Payne and he's coming off 40 minutes. I do wholeheartedly agree. Like if the game is lopsided, you don't want Chris Paul out there too long. You got Landry Shamet, you got Elfrid Payton, guys like that.
Right.
But certainly feels like at 8,600, there's a path to a double-double. But yeah, I think so much of this is going to be hanging in the balance of news that is coming out. Obviously, if we knew right now, just knowing right now that Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert is out, Jordan Clarkson exists. He's 5,600 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. Good chance to play 35 to 38 minutes. Good chance to take 20-plus shot attempts. Would he be one of your favorite plays, Coach?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think just by default, you need him because he's shown before, he can have a really good ceiling game. And I think his floor's very safe with all those guys out because he's going to have the ball in his hands. And again, he's going to shoot the ball a lot. So depending on that news, you may just have to plug him in there, even as a blocker, if he's going to be super high owned. I mean, you just got to have him, I think.
Some chalk block. All right, I'm with it. All right, let's talk about some prize picks, chat. If you haven't signed up for prize picks yet, what the freak are you doing, man? Get signed up. Use code GUNDACKER. Get double your first deposit up to $100. $100 becomes $200. $20 becomes $40. No slow drip. Instant accessibility. And it's topical because they just threw us a promotion. They don't often, not often throw us. They're killing it with promotions. Yesterday they had
triple negative.
Yesterday they had Patrick Mahomes at half a passing yards, kind of free square. So really some fun stuff to anchor with. But they just gave us Darius Garland discount from 20.5 points to 17.5. And I talked about how Garland, in the absence of Rubio, in the absence of Colin Sexton, has led the team in usage over 30%, and he has cleared 17.5 fantasy real points in every game, really, as far as the eye can see. He's done it in his 5 straight, and looking at his last his last 10, 17.5 is a number that he most recent stretch that he missed it was at Utah. Good games go to die at Utah. I'm willing to forgive and forget. 17.5 feels like a real possibility here against that Kemba Walker defense. And we mentioned Jared Allen's out, or not out. Jared Allen's is midday questionable. So if Jared Allen was to be out, a little less assist rate, goes down almost 10%, and maybe a little bit more shot volume. So if you guys believe in that line at 17.5, I'd probably go take advantage of it. My prop line for Darius Garland at the moment is I have him at 21 points, so I'm getting a 4 to 5 point benefit there. So I like that. So if you guys didn't catch that, that is up right now on PrizePicks, 17.5. It's going to be up for another hour and 48 minutes. Take advantage of it. And then we've talked about some other props earlier on the PrizePicks prop show. And there were some teams that were not listed yet. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to see if they added. They haven't added Jazz yet, or Jazz back. And then I was looking for Pacers. It's just the same. Holiday Goga.
I like Goga's rebounding prop. I think, there'll be a lot of rebounds. Even though J-Val should get his rebounds too, I think Goga will get double rebounds here. J-Val's point prop at 19.5. I like that.
Okay, I can get behind that. Chat, what do you guys got here? We have been pushing about 200 viewers, 83 likes. We can get to 100 likes. I know you can do it. If you guys are late to the stream, we did hit 6K subs, man. It's such a huge milestone for us. So I appreciate you guys. Anyone that has subbed to the channel, if you're not out there, well, you can help the grind to 7K because that begins today. Hit that sub button, but hit that like button. I would be embarrassed to walk away from how awesome of a chat you guys have been and how great on views you guys have been. To have less than 100 likes, man. You guys can do better. But if you guys got any lasting questions, comments, concerns in chat, throw them at me now. Rare time where we have a couple minutes to kind of address some 1Vs and stuff like that, since it is such a short slate. I do want to call out that tomorrow the regular streams will be at regular times. The prop show should be at 1 p.m. Or 2 p.m. Eastern, and then the DFS show will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. There is 9 games on the docket tomorrow. Pelicans, after tonight's game, have to fly to Philadelphia. The Hornets at the Raptors. The Nuggets at the Pistons. Clippers at the Wizards. Lakers at the Nets. Kings at the Celtics. Spurs at the Rockets. T-Wolves, Blazers. And then finally, the Mavs at the Warriors. And we've been dealing with some Warriors news and notes the last couple slates. But most of the slates within 1 hour, and then 2 games at 9 o'clock. So should be a fun slate to chop up tomorrow. So regular time right here on this channel, and I'm gonna get caught up on chat. Let's go home. Wait, from Daniel, what the freak? I got a dono from my girlfriend in the other room. That seems weird.
YT told me to show my support by super chatting, so
yeah, is it from my PayPal?
She got connected.
Thank you, my love, for that $2 dono. I probably have to return the favor when she streams on Twitch later, right? That's incredible. Well, you can see her now there. My girl has the newest D, y'all. Oh boy. You know what? I forgot to take off the. All right, I'll fix that later. Let me get caught up on chat. What do we got? What's the biggest takedown y'all ever got? For the takedown, single game was probably 15K out of the layup. The single night's probably like 25K, and then I had a 50K week at the end of December, like 2 years ago. It was a pretty good week. Thankfully, it was right at the end of the year, and I didn't have to spend all that tax money. And Uncle Sam, yo, where's that money at, bro? And be like, yo, see what happened was. E made it happen, says thank you, getting so much good info here, especially with gunplay and Fanduel mostly. Yeah, that is the nice ebb and flow of me and Raj. Raj sticks to DK more, and I've been more on Fanduel. I don't know why. I just Fanduel is more profitable for me.
Like DK's out. DK's just prettier. Like their whole web interface.
Wow,
it's just nice,
shallow.
Nice, yeah,
he's
really
shallow. He's shallow with the DFS.
Yeah.
CH thinks Alvarado does well with minutes. Yeah, I would need Devontae out before I get to him. Adam Shock says point guard on Fanduel feels tough if you don't pay up for CP3 or SGA. Who do you think is the right 2 at point guard? I mean, Garland is right up there as somebody that's going to project really, really well. For me, at least. Now, I need to adjust these projections to reflect the Jazz news that dropped right when I went live. But Darius Garland, from a FanDuel standpoint, he gave me a top 2 fantasy point projection on FanDuel scoring. So, I mean, that makes him the highest guard projected for me from this far out. So it'd be Darius Garland for sure in that mix.
Me too on Garland, and also LeVert if he's in.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for the notion. You said to the right. This guy playing both today, and then the other point guard on other than LeVert, which obviously makes a lot of sense from a FanDuel standpoint. Jordan Clarkson, he should be point guard eligible. 5,600, borderline a free square. Probably gonna elevate or ascend over 50% ownership, if not even higher than that. So just kind of chalk block it from there and go on. So that's probably where I'm at there. Who goes Adam? And then Adam says, who do you think is the right 2? Okay, so I think I would start with Garland and Clarkson, and then LeVert's fine, SGA's fine. And I wouldn't necessarily sweat value today. These shorter slates, you just put a string between all these these raw fantasy points. Some positions you just win the position and move on. Other positions you take the value, what's going to give you. I think center is probably the keys to the slate tonight, especially some of the center only options. And then on a site like FanDuel where you can only play one of them, you can't get it wrong because there's a lot of potential upside at center today. We mentioned Goga, J-Val, potentially Hassan Whiteside if you believed in his minutes, Vooch if he did play, if he didn't play, you get Tony Bradley potentially unlocked, and then Javal McGee versus Biyombo. Coach, I know you say you've been driving their minute projections pretty evenly. I've been just full on giving Biyombo more minutes than Javal McGee. McGee seems like stuck on a glass ceiling of like 22, where Biyombo hasn't got that. And then if we all kind of agree that this game could get lopsided, and ever since this news dropped, the spread has gone double digits. It was at 10.5 last I looked. Has it moved even more? Now it's at still at 10.5. Some spots at 11. So if you thought it got out of hand, it's even more reason for me to maybe like the non-starter here. So Biyombo's kind of a dude for me, and Biyombo's already showed us in 2 of his last 3 games that he can be one of the best center plays on the slate, especially when you chop it down to 4. So center could.
If it blows out, Jalen Smith might get those late minutes too.
Yeah,
he's sort of been out of the mix.
So Jalen has been out of the mix, and I thought the other night I actually played him, and he ended up not playing. He wasn't a DNP. He closed for like a minute, 2 minutes against San Antonio.
Yeah,
but he is somebody that could play some backup power forward minutes. So maybe
he's a nice player. He's a nice player.
Maybe no Jay Crowder makes him open anyway to play backup power forward minutes, and then if it does blow out, maybe he can just fill in some center spot as well. So that's strictly 100K to first 100,000 entries, nothing short end, but something to keep in mind. Kobe White, if no Levine, I definitely think Kobe White would be very much so in play. Ronald Jones says, I wish I played yesterday. Nah, I appreciate you taking a day off, Ronald. My boy Odell going to the ship. You just wait. Roscoe says, thoughts on Jackson Hayes with the Pels on the front of a back-to-back. Feel like J-Val will be pulled if the game gets out of hand. Am I wrong? I mean, no, but they're like, it's only a 3-point spread, and the Pelicans are projected to win, right? They're the favorites. So the Pacers, as much as we want to write the Pacers off, being without all these players, it's not like they didn't just beat Steph Curry, without anyone, and then they took the Phoenix Suns 12 rounds, right? It's just a 10-point game. Right. So I think if there's any team that like I wouldn't write off, one, it's these too dumb to know they're supposed to suck Pacers, and then parlay that with the fact that the Pelicans are not a good team generally, offensive efficiency wise. They're a bottom 6 team, and Brandon Ingram's, we all agree, their best player probably. You don't have the best player, so I don't really think that this game should get out of control one way or the other.
No, they won't stink too bad.
So I don't think I would overthink that. And I definitely don't think I would get into Jackson Hayes this far out with all of the center options on the slate, right? Mike says, are you doubling up centers in your build tonight? I would definitely get to as much center. So assuming from what opens up, right? Goga looks good. J-Val looks good. If Vooch is out, Tony Bradley looks good. Whiteside, if you believe in his minutes, I think there's reason to suspect, maybe he doesn't get the deep minutes that we would hope for. There's also, they've been holding him out for conditioning, so maybe they're, his conditioning's fine. Biombo, somebody I can definitely get behind. So yeah, I think I could see a lot of double down at the center spot. And then if Jared Allen didn't play, remember the slate could give us Kevin Love, could give us Evan Mobley, and Julius Randle is still somebody that could take advantage of a now weakened Cavs team that is so built on size and defense that they would be down to Evan Mobley. I do think Mobley would be a lot of assignment on Julius Randle, so I'm not in love with that. But yeah, there's a lot of girth at the center spot today that I could probably see a lot of overlap and a lot of center in my util spot. Yeah. Last night taking Chiefs money line with the Rams money line. OBJ and Hill over yards. Kelsey, Hill, Fournette, anytime touchdowns, pay big. Ready for it. Man, that's awesome. Arizona drama. I wish Texas, and I know coaches with me, I wish Texas would hurry up and open up sports betting.
Yeah, let's go.
It's just fun. I'd probably be losing a lot of money, but it's just fun. Take chances elsewhere. Nowhere I'm playing Jalen Smith. Yeah, I wouldn't get to Jalen Smith this far out, but if you late swap is your friend, and if you're live in a GPP 100K to first, something like that, maybe that's one of those names that falls. But it would definitely.
I wouldn't risk it. I just think it muddies the water with McGee and Biombo. That's all.
Adam says playing Whiteside's just asking to have acid reflux.
Yes, it is.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely one of those wide range of outcome players.
He can have a takedown though.
I don't
trust him as far as I could throw him personally.
Mm-hmm. Yep, one of the outcomes is lead the slate in fantasy points. So, but hopefully we'll get some Snyder statement on what we might expect minute wise, and then hopefully we get that Utah Jazz news at a timely fashion. But I think we all know that Utah Jazz news is coming at 8:01 p.m. Like it just never fails. And then we have to start playing the swap game. But we are all playing from the same deck of cards, so we'll try and pull out some winners. Chat, don't forget, link in the description. Check out Coach's channel. Hit him with that sub. Raj, you gonna be back tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be back.
All right, so big slate tomorrow. Check that out. We got 2 shows on tap for tomorrow, and then maybe a show in the morning. I haven't got with Luke yet, so kind of keep an eye on that as well. Lots of content. Appreciate you guys for getting us to 6K. Coach, I appreciate your time. We got to collab some more. Maybe I'll make a spot appearance on one of your upcoming live streams. And
that would be wonderful. And thanks for having me, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right. You're a sharp guy, Coach. You're a sharp dude.
Oh, thanks, man. We're trying. We're working hard. That's the key. Work hard. That's why John and I connected. I mean, just those you can tell who a grinder is that goes after it and gets it done, and that pays off in the long run. So, just happy to be a part of it. Look forward to having you on with us, and check us out, dfscoachtalk.com.
All right, chat. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Appreciate you making part of my day, be part of your day. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. And as always, go win some money.